in just a couple of minutes. Just waiting for some people. What part of the world are you in, Mike?
I'm in central Pennsylvania today.
All right, central PA.
And it's it's hot and steamy here. I went outside and it felt like I was in the South. I felt like I was in, North Carolina or South Carolina or something like that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. Looks like we're getting started. I'm feeling the moisture from middle of Pennsylvania come on up to me here in New York. Welcome everybody. I'm just going to make sure my chat is rocking here and just say hello from steamy Stone Ridge, New York. There we are. All right. Welcome. This is Lately Live. I am Kate Bradley. I'm the CEO of Lately, and we are super excited to have just such a juggernaut in our midst here today. Mike Gingerich. Am I pronouncing your last name right, Mike? Just want to make sure.
You did. You got it.
I got it. All right. Cool. Well, we're like old friends now because you just interviewed me recently.
Yes. On
the
so
Facebook now it's my turn. Yeah, right. I know. This is our first Facebook Live, by the way, here at Lately. So you helped. Yeah. Thank you. It's ours. But you helped nudge us along the way here. So I'll do a quick intro to make sure everybody knows who you are. So today we're going to talk about lead gen and marketing and how that works together. And I'm really excited about this Lately Live especially. So Mike is a strategy consultant for businesses. He's had some incredible successes. He's also president of a web development and marketing agency, as well as the co-founder of a leading Facebook page app service for lead capture. So he's a man of many, many talents. He's a noted Facebook marketing speaker. He's a blogger for one of our favorite outlets, Social Media Examiner. Yes, they are awesome. So that's a huge, huge role he has there. He's an international business consultant. He's an author, and he's one of the coolest guys we've met in a long time. I think I can call you my friend. Can I call you my friend, Mike?
Let's call it. Yes, let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, let's take it away. I want to say thank you so much for joining us here at Lately Live. And let's talk about lead gen and marketing. The way I wanted to start out was to share something with our listeners. So we did a wild and crazy thing a couple of months ago, and we stopped all of our paid advertising, which I do believe in, by the way, but I believe in the power of organic and writing. And we, for 6 weeks, did a really focused campaign all about organic social and increased our leads by 200% in 6 weeks.
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. So I hope we can use that as kind of a stepping stone for you today to sort of launch us off and say, like, I know what helped us make that decision, money was involved, but how do businesses decide if social is the right place for them to pursue lead gen? Because I think it's probably something, I get the feeling that they think it's like, an aside, you know what I'm saying? Rather than a priority.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that, well, one of the biggest, misconceptions is that, my audience isn't, I can't connect with them on social media. And the second one probably is that, I need to be everywhere. And the third one is that there's no social media platform that really connects with us. So I think those are the three things you need to take a look at. So, I mean, the statistics say that, the majority of the people, and particularly, people in the US and with a buyer demographic, are on social media of some sort. So, the key then is always taking a look at, where your ideal client spends time. So, that can vary. And so, it might be Facebook, but it might not be. It might be LinkedIn in the B2B realm, those types of things. So that's, you need to kind of evaluate a number of pieces there to identify where you should be, but your audience is there. They're using social.
Is there like a point of where I mean, a lot of people get nervous about mixing social and business, right? We've had this conversation internally. I mean, we kind of are just full bore at Lately. Maybe we have a unique situation because we're marketing companies, but like there's banks, there's other companies that just have to take a different stance around social. Like, when is it not a good choice for a company to pursue sales leads through social media?
Yeah. And, that's a tough question to answer, because I almost say that unless you're restricted, unless there's some restrictions that you can't, by governmental regulations or whatever, be on social, that there is an application for every business. It's just a matter of kind of the strategy then. And, this kind of comes back to one of the biggest problems that I see. And I think that most businesses make the mistake of assuming it's a one-to-one ratio. If I can post on social, I will get a lead. And that's kind of a big misconception, where they really need to be thinking about, how can I be a valuable resource? So if you go back to a bank, a bank, is not going to say open a CD account, whatever. They have limits, restrictions there. But a bank can offer some value, some resources, some things like that. Even in some other areas, financial advisors, where they have to be careful with regulations, but they can offer some resource, be a resource, I say. And that's being visible. That helps people understand who you are as a brand, can build trust, many things go into that.
And about being a resource, like on that note, like that, the whole goal, right, is there's a step-by-step process here. You are perceived as being a resource by actually being a resource, and then kind of walk us through, like, then what happens? How does it lead to a sale?
Yeah,
for example.
So I think that there's a study done by Constant Contact, came out a couple years ago, but I like to refer back to that. And in essence, the study results said that it takes about 7 points of contact with a business before the person that is ready to engage with them, do business with them. And so those 7 points of contact are, the early stages. It's awareness. They're understanding, okay, who is this? I'm aware of a new company. And then so they're maybe attracted to that. They have to be, some trust built. That's through engagement. So social media can help with that kind of engagement. And people are doing research online. And so social media can answer some of those research questions that they're doing. And so there's a process there of, in short, they have to know you. They have to begin to like you. They have to move to a deeper level where they trust you. And when they have moved down that pathway a little further, then they're ready to, come over and hear from you in a more personal way on like your website. And that's where I think that your social media and your website things need to work in tandem. There has to be some type of next step that you take them to from social, typically on your website, that is, maybe it's a free ebook, or it's, get our weekly new blog post in your inbox or something like that. That's maybe not the sale of your product, but it's a next step. And that's done, that moves them from social, maybe to an email list where there's further nurture before there's a product offer. The actual product offer may not come through social. It may come via email or on a web page, landing page.
Right, exactly. So, and the point is, it's a long process, which I think is, something that can depress people a little bit, right? It's really important to get started. And we've got a couple of questions around that. One from Andrew wants to know, like, where does social media monitoring and listening play a role, which I think is apropos exactly here, because I'm assuming it's part of those steps, right?
Yeah. So the social media and monitoring can be huge in that fact, because that might be your first point of contact with someone. If you're monitoring certain hashtags, trying to find a way to discover the right type of person, maybe somebody's out there, and let's just say it's on Twitter or whatever, and you're kind of watching some things, hashtags, different things like that, and somebody's asking a question, they've tagged it, or there's a term, and you've identified that. Can you answer that question? Be the resource. And that's their first point of social contact with you. Wow, they answered my question. What is that company?
Yeah, one of the things that we practice, and granted we're a smaller team, so we can be a little bit more nimble, is to we don't think of social listening as a separate entity. So we're constantly, as you know, having conversations. Thank you, Katie Jordan. She's our social media marketing lead, with our customers, right? And so right away, as soon as you come into my life, as soon as I get your lead information, we start to follow you on social, and we actively share our customers' content. So we're constantly seeing, how they're using my product on social, right? So I get a bird's eye view of what's happening there. But then I'll also, we're able to join the conversation and listen to the conversation because we're part of the conversation, right, already. And another question that we got, which is interesting, and I certainly maybe pertains to Facebook, but what about future backlash affecting social media, maybe being detrimental towards lead gen in the future? Like, how do you foresee that going?
I mean, I think we're still a really long way off from that. I think that things would really have to change for it to become negative. I mean, it adapts and it evolves, but there always seems to be opportunities for it. And so you have to pay attention, and you can't keep doing what you did 12 months ago. It's going to shift a little bit, but I think there's still places to be. But I will say as well that, for instance, Facebook's kind of facing this, big fine and those types of pieces. So you don't want to rely totally on social media as your home base. I mean, that's why in my process, what I'm talking about, we're never totally reliant on the entire lead process to sale taking place on social media. We're always trying to move them to another place. We're trying to move them to the website. We're trying to move them to an email list. We're trying to move them to text message lists so that we have another way to contact them.
Right. It's part of the process. Yeah. And it's interesting for us to constantly find out, where is which outlet is the place that's going to change the conversation, right? And turn them over into the sale, which it does get pretty muddy, I guess, the more and more you are social. This gets back to the idea of brands and maybe even banks again. Poor banks, we're picking on banks today. But knowing, where that line is, when is it too far to be approaching that conversation, or when is it not far enough? Like when, and it's a hard thing to teach. I mean, part of it is just sales gut, like knowing when it's okay to turn it up, to ask somebody for a call, to actually make the pitch or a soft pitch or that kind of thing. Is there anything that you teach specifically when it comes to social? Are there cues that you can think of, or any kind of tips you can talk about when is it, when do you know you got them?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple probably indicators. I mean, number one is on social, again, thinking through Facebook. You could probably say this about Instagram, that type of thing. You can watch for engagement, so their active engagement on, multiple posts is perhaps saying that they're into this, they're interested, they're engaged with your brand. They might be ready for a next step, that type of piece. So I think look for engagement. I think that if you're doing your social monitoring well, you might be able to see that they're connecting to you on multiple social channels. So that's going to be another
totally indicator. Yeah, that's a great point. I love that, because that's when they are curious. It's more than accidental if they're actually actively seeking you out elsewhere. And it's interesting to us, like we do tend to have a number of conversations with customers before they're customers and after, in different, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. And we found that being accessible in all those channels is so important, which I think is something that businesses should really remember, because like we said in the beginning, there is this pressure to be everywhere all at once. And that's hard. But the reason is because customers really do want to access you wherever they are. And they tend to be in more than one channel themselves. And that comes down to, I think you'll agree, is to a trust issue, right? If you're not there, maybe you're not good enough, maybe you're not talented enough, or maybe your company isn't professional enough, or something like that. So, that's one of the things I think it's important for companies to understand, is that you you have to sort of cover all those baselines. And certainly knows we're trying to help them do that.
Yes, absolutely.
As are you. So let's talk about, there's this quote that, that we were thinking about. It's about the right tools and the right strategies working together. We love that quote. And we think a lot of people start with a tool and then forget about the strategy. So they just like are like, yeah, we're on social, but like nothing is really happening over there, for example.
Yeah.
So give us a high level, like how do you choose what outlets like that, and how can businesses think about what are the right tools and strategies for them?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I think you're right that people suddenly come to say, you know, we're on social, we're doing it, we're doing Facebook, we're doing Instagram or whatever, but they forget about the strategy. And so you know, backing up a little bit, I think that again, you have to take a look at who are your best customers and identify what is that demographic, what is that persona of who they are, and where do they spend time. You know, if they are not spending time on Twitter, but they are spending time on Pinterest, well, that's important to you. You got to pay attention to those kind of things. So again, who's that best client? And if you're wanting more of those people, where are those customers, clients spending time? How can you reach them? That's where you need to be present. So be present there. But then once you're present, I think that you do need to have a strategy with it. So, you know, kind of breaking down what we talked about before, those 7 points of contact, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I think that your social posts, what you engage with, needs to have some strategy to it at a high level. I think you take a weekly basis. Let's take Facebook and let's go for a week. I think that you know, you have to post enough to be present. You have to post in the right forms that work on Facebook today. You know, again, so video we know works well. So live video like this, people are getting notified on the page. So how can you do some of the mix that is working well on Facebook? That's the type of post. But then the post mix, that's part of the strategy. Is I often like to think that let's take, you know, in a week, we're going to, you know, 10 posts. If a company could do 10 posts in a week, that's going to show that they're active on Facebook, that they're relevant. If they spread those out, I'm thinking 50% of those need to be attraction or engagement type posts. These are just, you're trying to attract the right audience. You're trying to engage the right audience. You're trying to be a resource. You are not selling at all. That's 50% of your posts. I think that that's, you know, that's 5 of those. Another 30% here is going to be something that is a soft call to action, some type of lead gen. It's not the final sale, but it's get to know us better in some way. It's like, hey, we got this blog post. Come over, check this out. Hey, we have this other resource. It's an ebook. Come check this out. Sign up for it. That type of thing. That's where you would maybe gain an email address, visit you on another channel. That's where you get a text message number, that type of piece. And then, you know, perhaps only, you know, 2 of those posts, then the final 20% is some type of direct pitch. Hey, here's a 7-day free trial or something like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So Katie Jordan was just calling me out because checkout is one of the phrases that I've badgered into all of my team to not use, but to get more real, because we found that when customers like actually say real things, so for example, learn more by downloading this ebook, then you'll have a deeper engagement. And I'm sure you've seen the same thing, like that, you know, that careful word choice there.
Discover,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so what's interesting here about the 7 points of contact, and I want to get to these other questions as well, is that, so I was in radio for a dozen years in another life, as you know, and with music, right, so the average time you would hear a song for it to become your favorite song would be about 35 times a week, which is why radio stations play songs over and over and over again, has to sink in. Right. And then we all know there's that old marketing adage, it was 7 times you had to see a radio commercial. And, you know, we've even found that the 7 points of contact, which is where we started, have varied for different businesses. And you probably have too. Like it could be 12, it could be 14. You have to start with 7, you know, I think as your jumping off point, and then, you know, kind of measure that as well, because it's sort of interesting everyone talks about the customer journey, which I think is kind of a BS term at this point. But like, because there's so many different ways and they all overlap. And so for a company to focus on just one is ridiculous, because that's how marketing works. People can come in all avenues. And as you're talking on that note, I was thinking about, how you're pushing the sale forward. So for us, for example, maybe we have a conversation with someone on LinkedIn in a DM, and I will pitch a demo there, and then I'll CC one of my team members who do the demos. They'll come right into the DM. And there's always this awkward thing, because at some point we have to push them to email or to Calendly to set up an appointment, right? And so you're pulling them out of the comfortable place where we were into the place we want them to be. And it takes some finesse. Calendly helps because, at least for some reason, the push from social to email, I feel like it feels more formal, and we can lose them there, right?
Okay.
Have you found this as well? Like, and this happens on Facebook too, like, or even on Twitter, like you get somebody, you get them engaged. How do you then get them to get on the phone with you?
Yeah, no, that can be a pretty significant leap, and it will vary by industry, personality, but I think that it comes back to that know, like, and trust. I mean, obviously they know you that way. Have you done enough with the like and trust that they're comfortable taking the next step? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the like part I find so interesting, because I think people will skip over that. And it's really important. That is something that we calculatedly do at our company. I mean, we are nice people, but we are actively nice for a purpose. Everything from adding in smiley faces to purposefully commenting on our customers' lives and social, that kind of thing. So it's a strategy. Being nice isn't just an accident, right? And so I'm sure that's something you teach as well. So
yeah,
great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a somewhat, when people are doing social media wrong, they have typically forgotten that, and they're still in that old sales pitch mentality, the door to door and knocking on, hey, you want to be, here's the encyclopedia, you need this kind of thing. And that's such a turnoff. And in fact, I mean, it still happens. But the like factor, people are going to do business with people that they feel comfortable with. And so that's, again, that's your key differentiator. I mean, sometimes your product may be similar to what other people have, but the choice that someone's going to make between yours or theirs is, do they feel a personal connection with you? That type of piece. Regardless, they're saying, software, I'm not sure what to do, but I like Kate, so I'm going to do it. And so that's why it's important.
And that's how you win, I think, especially in a small business. I mean, we have to make extra noise. We have to cut through that noise. And so how can we do it? And certainly customer service and social, we find, is a big one. It takes a lot of effort, and it's definitely a line in the sand that a company has to choose, to do. And on that note, we have another question. And this sort of talks to how to do that, because it is a lot of effort to know, like, trust, to be on social everywhere, all that. And Nazim, who we love, hi Nazim from Italy, he wants to know about how you see the role of artificial intelligence moving towards lead generation in the future.
Well, I think that in multiple ways. So number one, a tool like I'm using lately, and I mean, that's helping me maximize some of my content that I do have. So that can be part of my being a resource to people right there. So it's helping me on the front side, generate the content that way. I think artificial intelligence on the other side then will help me monitor and understand. We talked about, how do you know when someone's ready? I think artificial intelligence will help evaluate some of those things and be able to, through measuring tweets, that type of thing, begin to give an understanding of some sentiment, what they're feeling at that point in time. So I think that's a possibility. And I think that artificial intelligence, and I think he also asked a question about automation. I don't think automation is out. I think it's just smart automation will be used along with some interactions, interjections of human touch. So I think it's that combination, smart automation, human touch combo.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's interesting to me is obviously, that's what we're about at Lately. We 100% believe like the robot will never replace the human, and they have to work in tandem because, as you said, marketing is emotion-based. Robots are not. You have to have that emotion to get that trust and that like and all those things. So I often hear like non-marketers are the ones who are like, can't you just replace it all with robots? Where like everyone on this call is like, no, don't replace that. We know better, which is kind of interesting to me. So on that note, like if somebody, I wanted to actually talk about your recent article that we loved on, it's called The Top Myths of Social Media Marketing, which is awesome. Talk about like, what do you think is the most common misconception? So one we sort of uncovered here, that like automation is king, right? But misconceptions when it comes to social, specifically around sales.
Yeah, well, I kind of coming back to a point I made earlier. I think one of the big misconceptions is they think it's one-to-one, or they think it's going back to Field of Dreams. If I build it, they will come, and that's not a given either. So I'm there. I'm on Instagram. How come I'm not seeing any ROI? So I think that's a misconception, and I think another misconception is that the selling will be done on social media. We're not seeing an ROI from Facebook. It's like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, nobody's, captured that. They didn't do the lead ad and convert. It's like, well, okay, maybe you didn't do the steps before. They didn't know you before. They didn't like you before. And so that type of lead ad is going to fall flat. So I think that, that kind of goes back to that one-to-one thing. So those are some of the big misconceptions that they're missing the purpose of it. The purpose of social, you got to come back to it again, is not sales. The purpose of social media is for people to have a place to engage with others. And so you got to use it that way. But you do that in a way that they're aware of you, they know what you do, and they have the possibility of discovering more of that and moving over to a channel where they can, engage with you further to purchase your product.
Yeah, I mean, we really look at social as kind of an army of sorts. I mean, so really amassing a group of people who like us and trust us, and collectively are acting on our behalf, you might say, right? Because again, we're a small company. We need that army. We need as many people as we can helping us be influencers, spreading the word, sharing us, that kind of thing. And that bigger picture you mentioned, it's something we run into a lot because, of course, everybody's always trying to measure marketing. And the one thing that will never change about marketing, as you know, is it's more art than science. It just is. It always will be. That's why it works. That's what works about it, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's this larger picture you have to measure, because while someone might, like Nazim is actually a great example. He came through us through Facebook, but another friend through Facebook had told us about him. And then I think we ran some social media ads, I think elsewhere, and even emails that we were talking about a special. And so Nazim actually knew about us for a long time, and we had other people in our midst. But it was, probably 7 or 8 touches that it took in one way for him to actually then come in, get a demo, and then move forward with us. So that particular journey, right, is all, and I'm guessing at some of it, right? I know some of it I'm guessing at, but it's almost impossible to really measure. And the reason I know most of it is because I've talked to Nazim, like and my team has as well. But I think that's the thing that businesses can get caught up in, and it's annoying. It's hard because you have to trust in the black magic. You just do, right? There's just part of marketing you have to take and just put aside and be like, okay, I'm not going to question that part so much anymore. And on that note, do you see that a lot? Is there any parting words that you might give to a business around trusting the black magic?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm just going to encourage everybody to evaluate their current social from this perspective of, is it at least 50% where you're just trying to be a resource and, be helpful? Okay. Just break it down that way. and take a look at that. Yeah. And just say, you know, is what I'm doing, you know, engaging, attractive, interesting, being a resource, and you might find some things that you need to tweak right there.
I like that. I like keeping the objective in mind as well, and having engagement be it, right? So it's, if you have that as a sticky note when you're writing, that's my goal, then you'll get there.
There you go.
So Mike, you're a superstar. This has been incredibly valuable and helpful. And I'm so glad that you were able to take the time to spend with us here for Lately Live. We'll do it again, I hope, sometime. In the meanwhile, everybody else, join us for the next edition. You can sign up for Lately Live and many other fun things at www.trylately.com, trylately.com. Talk to you guys later. Thanks for all the comments. Hey, Shirley, rock and roll. And we'll see you guys later. Bye, Mike.
See ya. Take care.
Okay, thanks.